Hi, this is part 16 or episode 16 of Certain Truths About Truth. I was going to go on now to try and match what is in the Bible anyway and the predictions in it to what is happening in life, because Christ said, watch and pray, and he said, my word is truth, or my words are spirit and truth. And life, spirit, truth, and life, and it's all about, as I've mentioned before, over and over again, it's all about the words, and we can follow words that take us to error, which might have a bit of truth in it, which sort of tricks us into following them, and we might have words that are truth or nearer to the truth. But all of these beliefs about God are very fantastical, as I say. I don't, maybe there's no such word, but I'm sure you'll get my meaning. And even the Bible, and even as I've read it more and more, and I think, can this really be true? But certainly some religions bring violence, error, oppression, and bringing politics when there shouldn't be politics in it. The USA political system particularly separates religion from its politics, and I thought ours did as well. But we do have the bishops in our parliament, but we need to do something about that, because now we've brought religion in our schools as well, and I think that is, as Ireland had a problem with the Protestant and Catholic, and it's caused a lot of problems there, also about land, as I've mentioned before. We are, instead of progressing forwards, learning from our mistakes, we're going back, and we're bringing in multiple other cultures and religions and treating them as if all true. And they can't all be true, because some are saying that children can be dedicated to a man at age 6 or 9 and be consummated at that age, 9, or even below 16. According to the English law, it's against the law to have sexual relations with a child under 16. So, and even that's too young really, because if your child gets pregnant, that's the end of her life, because you then a mother before you've even become an adult. They say we mature really, physically, mentally, emotionally, really by age 25. So I would advise any teenager or person not to marry until you're 25, certainly not to have children until you're 25. But what I wanted to speak about this time, obviously this terrible situation has happened with Henry Novak, and we wonder why it's happened. And I wrote a comment on something on the internet, and I was going to read it now because it reflects exactly what's going on at the moment. And young man just going about his business and has been stabbed by a Sikh. So this is yet another religion ideals, because obviously a Sikh carries a knife, it seems, as part of his belief system. Should it be a knife that can kill? Anyway, he stabbed this young man. He was just walking home after a night out, and he stabbed him. And then the police were called. He called the police, or his brother called the police, and they said that this Henry had been racially abusive to him and pulled his turban off. But presumably there'd be an inquiry into that. But whatever the situation, it doesn't warrant killing somebody with a sword. And what is he out and about with a sword anyway? So the three policemen came along, and he was telling them that he'd been stabbed and that he couldn't breathe. that he couldn't breathe. And he died while he was being handcuffed by the police, who didn't think he'd been stabbed. Obviously, the police have been taught to, with the protected characteristics that we have in the Equality Act, which is not really a 2010 Equality Act, which is not really the Equality Act, it's an Inequality Act, because it has prescribed, protected characteristics for all those, well, for gender, like LGBTQT, trans, for racial groups, for religious groups. I think it also includes the elderly or disabled. But these other groups, so all these groups get preferential treatment for jobs, for in the schools, for different scholarships and this sort of thing. They will have the priority before the English. It's the English taxpayer mostly that is paying the taxes, and yet we seem to be at the bottom of the pile for all this, even for housing. And as in some of our council properties, 70% are occupied by those who've not been born here. So now we have this issue, and our Prime Minister, Mr. Starmer, has said that we shouldn't be, certain people shouldn't be fanning riots or division, and the family have asked that for that not to happen. But as in the Southport attack, where the 3 little girls were killed and 10 were attacked with a knife by somebody else who was not born here. And we were told he was Welsh, but it turned out he was Rwandan. And we're being constantly deceived by our government, so we don't know where we stand. We don't know what's true anymore coming from the government. We are not given the numbers. They're not stopping the stopping the channel boats crossing, pouring in. The taxpayers are paying for all their accommodation, all their food, and it's all very well to take them out of the hotels, but they're going somewhere else, probably in whatever council properties we've got left or any other properties. But, we didn't have enough properties for our own people. Even we had to go on a list, and not everybody went on the list because you were not deserving enough. And yet people are just pouring in and going straight on the list, and this isn't fair. After the Maastricht Treaty in 1993, by 1998, our housing list had gone up. Even then, with the free movement of the EU, had gone up 80%. Now it's like over 1,500,000, I think, on the waiting list, which is impossible. And all these properties we're building, they're not going to go to the English. They're going to go to those people that are coming in and have nowhere to go, no job even. So if we come back to this young man who is now the police, even though he'd been stabbed and he was bleeding and died while they were handcuffing him, saying he couldn't breathe. Now Starmer is saying that we shouldn't be saying anything about this, and because people gathered around Southampton. Now, if you remember when Floyd, who was an ex-criminal, he had taken a knife or a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. When he was arrested, he was using counterfeit money, he was on drugs, and he was avoiding arrest. I saw a video where they got him into the back of the police car, and he crawled out and went out the other side. And I think that's when they sat on him to stop him moving away, because he was a large man. Now, there was massive riots after that, and we had the London mayor not even stopping those riots and saying, well, I'm not going, but I'm not stopping those people going. So, and they also rioted during COVID, or protests, and throwing statues into the river, and yet they got off. from that, and they were allowed to have multiple protests during the COVID period, and even the World Health Organization said they believed it was a cause that should be allowed to go ahead, even during COVID lockdown. So even then, we've had this two-tier justice, and look what it is doing to us now. We have no justice. We have no truth. Fairness is not there, because what should be happening is somebody has attacked somebody. The police should be going there, listening to both. Well, they couldn't even listen to both stories, because if they'd investigated properly, they would have seen that he'd been stabbed. When one man that was trying to look after him was trying to keep him sit up, he said he's got blood in his mouth. Why didn't they look then? It seems incredible that 2 or more policemen were there, and yet they couldn't see that this young man was bleeding. But going back to the fact that Starmer is saying, oh, we mustn't allow this to go become chaotic in the society. Nobody said that with the Black Lives Matter issue. So again, there is no fairness, there is no justice. And you know, why should we be submitting to this illegal preference to those who don't want to obey our laws, basic laws that we've always obeyed and submitted to? Even our criminals used to submit to when they were arrested by the police. But there are some that would just get a knife out, or they, as in the Manchester airport issue, they jump on the backs of the police and they headbutt them. You know, one of the young women, police woman, was bleeding from her nose. I'm not sure. And one in the Bristol factory, where they were ruined, smashed drones and the equipment in this factory. And somebody who was an Oxford University student hit a crowbar across one of the police women's back, and she was off for 3 months. Could have broken her back. And that young man and that group, I think they couldn't reach a verdict, and there was a retrial. I think one of them might have been in prison, but 2 of them got off. And if you saw the video footage, they shouldn't have got off. And now we have the Manchester brothers who were jumping on the backs of police, injured this woman twice, 2 trials, and they got off. And they're not having another retrial. Now, why is it that they've got off? They didn't get a jury that voted as a majority. Now, is that because they were choosing the jury, because you can choose some of the jury, so that there's more of the racial group that those that have been accused, so they just let them off? Because you have to remember that the Islamic community, they are a group who want to take over England, take over the world. That's in their... I'm not saying anything I shouldn't. That's not true. It's in their book. It's to be the one true religion. And it also says that in certain circumstances, you can kill Jews and Christians and any unbeliever, as well as chastise your wife and not to befriend Jews and Christians and this sort of thing. So if we have a book that is saying to a religious group that it's okay to do this, we will never reach truth or peace, because it's a book of war and oppression. And if you want to see what it will be like, look at Iran, look at the Saudi Arabia, look at Qatar, see how they live. because that is how they want Britain to be. So I'm just going to read this and then I'll come with another video another time. So it is a dire situation every which way, as everything is now affected, or should I say infected. DEI, Labour left wing, now a more obvious front for communism. BLM, Black Lives Matter, a front for Marxism, which communism is based on, I believe. All emerging into DEI, diversity, equality, inclusion, the 2010 Inequality Act, well, it's supposed to be Equality Act, and prescribed characteristics, which I was just explaining before, race, religion, gender, will be preferred. They're protected characteristics, so it's like preferred characteristics. So those who are of that group will get preferred attention, jobs, this sort of thing. Special measures when they call in the police, as in this situation with Henry Novak, because the other man who called was the Sikh. And although I have greatest respect for all the parents of children who have died for one reason or other when they call for peace, but the thing is, we can't keep letting it go by like this, because others will be killed as their children have been, and we have to do something about it. Not to necessarily go out and riot, but we can't let this go on like this, because it's just regression, and we will end up with a very dangerous society. So all being taught, i.e. brainwashing of our children from age 5, not to mention trans and LGBTQ from the same age of 5, because schools are promoting this. Yet some children from school can hardly read or write by the age of 16, and with no awareness of critical thinking, which the school should be teaching, which is just looking at not just what you think or believe, but what other people think and believe, and look into it, investigate it, and then decide. Instead, our universities now prioritise teaching students how to protest and to be anti-Semitic. On top of all this, there seems to be some other less defined writings from the 1930s that aim to dissemble society by all the above, together with mass migration, which none of our leaders attempt to reverse, even though it is leading us to bankruptcy. Even all democracies are going bankrupt. France, America, they're trillions in debt, as are we. And our NHS and councils, Thames Water, all are going into bankruptcy. In fact, there is no value in democracy such as we have now. I fear to speak and expect a knock on the door from the police or the council to be evicted should I step out of line. On top of all this is the Islamic teaching, which having read the Bible and the Quran, it is a problem. In response to the tragedy of Henry Novak, I suggest reading all of Isaiah 59, but verses 14 and 15 in particular, which describes the state of the UK and the world very succinctly, very precisely. It also tells us how we will get out of it, as it is not just about politics, the problem we have. We must also defeat the error of aggressive religious belief, which has raised its head out of our weakened justice system, due to our extreme tolerance of practices that go against the English law and moral justice. Also human rights, it goes against. Not that I am inspired by human rights either, which contradict each other. In Isaiah 59, verse 14 to 15, but I recommend you read the whole chapter because it gives us the solution. And judgment is turned away backward, and justice stands afar off. For truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. Yea, truth fails, and he that departs from evil makes himself a prey. Say, rest in peace, Henry Novak.